Right, are we ready?
Oh, I can still hear myself.
That might be mine actually.
Oh,
because,
okay. It wasn't me this time.
Yeah, it is mine. There we go.
Right.
Hi.
Hello and welcome to Mindful Bollocks podcast. The podcast, I did it wrong again. The podcast
You're right.
where spirituality meets real life, and sometimes, often, things go awry.
Yeah, hiya. I'm Kay. I've jumped in and done that wrong as well.
That's fine.
That's all good. Let's be honest, it's not all perfect lotus poses and all our fabulousness. Life is messy, innit?
Yeah.
Let's be honest, and if anyone can tell you life's messy, it's us.
Oh, absolutely.
So you will get an awful lot of mindfulness, but you will get quite a lot of bollocks as well, but with the best intention.
So yeah, I'm Melanie. she did it in the wrong order, but it's fine. I did it wrong, she did it wrong. This is going to be how it is. Just get used to it. So, part of the mindfulness part of this is actually checking in with your body and being completely embodied throughout the whole thing and going on the journey with us. And to do that, we am going to share something called a sensory snapshot at the end of the episode. And so if you follow us on social media, then you will already have seen me doing these. I do them Monday to Friday as part of my morning practices.
You're putting those on YouTube now as well, aren't you?
I'm putting them on YouTube. Yes,
yeah, that's really good.
So that's not on this YouTube channel that you'll be, if you're watching this on YouTube. So we've got Mindful Bollocks, youtube.com/@mindfulbollocks and @mindfulbollocks podcast shorts, and they go on the shorts channel. Because apparently it can muck up with the algorithm if you put shorts and
I
feature
don't
length.
get that bit,
it's not feature length. Yeah,
makes sense, I suppose.
it's about because it's something to do with if your audience likes. It's mainly when you watch them for shorts, it's going to muck up your long form content. So
I think you have a different audience, though, don't you? You have YouTube audience who are very similar to like the TikTok audience who just want real shorts.
Yep.
And then you have people who will literally go on a pop down a rabbit hole like us, who will then just sit on YouTube and find out as much as we can documentary style.
Yeah, we watch. We watch more YouTube.
So do we in our house,
than
we do as well.
Any other. We've given up Prime mainly because we don't like in our house. We hate Amazon. We also don't like Netflix, but we do still have them. But I
just think there's better content on YouTube. To be honest, I think it's more specific to what you're looking for.
With Prime, it just got annoying because I think you could. It was like there was different levels. Like you can have a cheaper level with Netflix and then have ads. So we were watching a film and it would say, and now you're having an ad break, and it's like 0 out of 0 ads. So it would just literally interrupt us to tell us we had an ad break without showing us an ad, and I was like, that's just ridiculous.
It's like the worst thumbnail ever, isn't it? It just pops in ad.
Jeff Bezos is an arsehole.
Oh, that's fair.
Anyway, so this is having Prime made it too easy to overconsume. So because it's free. Oh, I can get that. It's cheap and it's free. Free delivery. The fact that he just basically gets loads of people to put it on their marketplace, see what does well, and then creates his own version. So that basically someone else is doing his market research for him.
That's really just underhand.
It's just
also
shitty.
It takes the whole event out of watching a film now, because it used to be an event. Like you still go to the cinema, don't you? You used to, which is great. But even just renting a video, when you just used to have it for, we used to do the 48-hour rentals with back in the day with Blockbuster. So you knew you had 48 hours to watch this film. So you'd always squeeze watching it in once more to get your value out of it, even if you disliked it, because you made the effort to go. Yeah. Rent it out, and also
the amount of late fees I've got though with being ADHD.
And then I always, when they used to say you can just whack it through that like letterbox, that used to do my absolute head in if I put it through the letterbox. How do they know? That's because you could do the drop off at Blockbuster. You could literally put it through the. And I used to think, well, what if there's just some really dodgy person the other side who's just nicking them all. And then if ever I saw like an ex rental for sale at a boot sale, that enters my head immediately. Oh, where did you get that from?
Well, probably because they didn't take it back and they've been charged £50 for the privilege.
That's right, and it's on a wanted list of VHSs.
we digress.
This is not what this week's episode's about
at all. It's quite actually a serious episode.
This is probably why we've digressed. I think I'm probably procrastinating a bit about the content. You probably are too.
Yeah, it's quite going to be a bit of a heavy one this week. So let's finish off the snapshot. So we're going to say essentially snapshot, which is there is a more detailed video on our socials. And it's basically made up of, it's a high sensation you feel in your body, and you describe it with 4 things, which is the location, the temperature, the every time I'm going to say that over winter I'm going to laugh because it's really quite chilly in here. Not as chilly as last week, but it is still quite chilly in here. Movement and texture. So yeah, we're on pretty much all social media except Twitter because Elon is a cunt. We're not touching that hellhole.
I just don't like it either anyway. It's always been a little bit uncomfortable, isn't it? And it's
I think it used to be quite fun. I used to be part of this sort of businessy community growing thing, and they used to do like a Thursday thing where everybody would just use the hashtag and almost like have conversations over it.
Was that a lockdown thingy?
No,
just the social media thing.
Just the social media, like probably 10 plus years ago now. So, but yeah, no, we're not on Twitter.
I used to like the groups, not so much on Twitter, but I used to run quite a few groups on Facebook back in the day. I used to bring back smash hits and a couple of kids reading groups, which were really popular. But over time, they just delete the groups, and they just go. If you've got, I think I had about 700 members in bring back smash hits, and you're going back then to about 2007. So that was quite, and then. But I like that that was kind of when social media was still quite pure, and it was just about music, and it was just about album covers, and I loved it.
Lyrics.
Yeah, it really was, but it was the element of mixtapes and joy really when it was pared down and a bit of vinyl, and that's my joy. I've digressed again because I'm avoiding this subject.
So last week we talked about one of Kay's specialist subjects, which was the gender bias, or was bias in medicine in general, but looking such a big topic, we looked specifically at the gender. I've
updated the gender gap thing on that, the research on that. Excellent. So that's ready to go, but it's massive. This one's massive as well.
Yeah,
have you seen it already?
No.
You don't want to.
So this week is, as we said already, it's quite a dark one, and we're looking at how colonialism affects Indigenous families, specifically with the
Greenlanders in Denmark,
Inuit community being seriously affected still to this day, and in the news quite a lot this week. So we're going to look at that. So
I think where we need to start with this is kind of at the very beginning, which I think you're going to talk about.
So basically we'll start at the beginning of when was Greenland colonised, basically. So it was in 1721, so over 300 years ago. A Danish-Norwegian missionary called Hans Egede, I don't know, sorry to the dead person for mispronouncing your name, and basically they like all white people, they went to another land and discovered it. That's with a big sarcasm, and established a new settlement, and then
again basically trade, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, it's always
that's always the push.
The push to resources, easier ways to get to obviously
for travelling,
finding America or finding the West Indies and other Caribbean islands was the push to get round to India for spices and things. It's always capitalism, or as Bryony, who we watch on YouTube, says capitalism.
Anything that's going to make money is always going to be the push, and whoever gets in your way is going to be irrelevant. And that's the bit that
dangerous victimised, but villainised,
and that is the word. And it's also the misunderstanding that that one culture is better than the other, and that nobody's got the right to do that.
No.
Absolutely no one's got the right to say that actually you will become as we are.
And I think...
and if you don't, you're not going to be in existence anymore.
White people are often deluded that we're the one, with
the superior.
That we're somehow superior, but we're so...
We're not. We're
when you
actually
actually really look at
fault.
a lot of Indigenous peoples, they live with within the land, and they're not. Whereas white people, we have created capitalism.
Within cultures, you've always got difference.
Yeah,
and you've got no right to judge someone on their culture, or say your culture is wrong because we don't do this, we don't do that. Yes, there's elements of all cultures that are uncomfortable, and I'm not going to dismiss any of that either. But to actually, the reason that we came to create this episode is because there was a test that was given to Greenlanders. It's an appropriation and parenting test, and it led to people losing their children. But the actual test, I've actually linked the test into our, so you can have a look at it yourselves. But it wasn't culturally appropriate for them.
No.
There were elements of where they didn't even have. One of the questions was who's Mother Teresa. Within their culture, that's not relevant.
No,
that's absolutely not relevant.
No,
that's someone put in.
How does that even
assess
whether
but this
you're
is
gonna
what
be a
scared
good
me
parent?
the most, because it was very much down to the practitioner who was making the decision.
Yeah,
because there wasn't a fail. There wasn't a fail mark. It was like your associations with this aren't correct. Well, do you know what? Anyone can stumble on their words. If you've got a language barrier as well as a cultural barrier, and people haven't dealt with actually having translations or efficient translations, because you can lose stuff in translation as well, then that's not fair. The point that we're making is that they changed the law, but it's too little too late.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about the little Danes? I will happily.
Yeah, well, basically, so finishing off the colonisation of Greenland, basically it was Denmark, in 1814, Denmark gained control over Greenland when they dissolved the union with Norway.
Yeah.
In 1953, Greenland actually was integrated into the Kingdom of Denmark and became a district, even though it's complete, massive sea, not massive, not like the Pacific.
It's standalone,
but it's separate. But in 1979, it gained home rule, but only in 2008 did it get granted further self-governance, which makes it sound like it's not complete. It was obviously not completely independent. It's not its own place.
It doesn't stand alone. The laws still stand, which is why this was able to happen.
So
that's. But you've got the. It's actually, you've got the child removal elements that we've touched on, but there's more than that. You've got the enforced contraceptions, the forced IUD fittings in to people who it really, really wasn't appropriate to be fitting them in, the very young females, and that screams an element of we're going to control these Indigenous people.
Well, it's
eugenics, basically. That's a really uncomfortable phrase for everyone because of the connotations we've got with Nazis.
Yeah.
But that's fact. It's enforced. It's almost. The outcomes for some of these people who were having procedures that they didn't want has led to people being completely sterile because there are risks in everything.
And not having that choice of your own body.
Absolutely mortified me. For someone to be... There's links on the research documents to the actual... There's a survivor and her testimony is literally that 2 of her friends went in before her and they didn't know what was happening. They were 12. 12. And that... And then you're literally like... They didn't know what was happening. How... They're taking away every bit of their... autonomy over their own bodies. That's what made me cry yesterday. I'll be quite honest with that, because it's something that is not in the realm of what I think in the world in my lifetime should ever have happened. And the facts are that it did. And that is horrific to me. And I'm sorry I didn't understand more about this going on. But so much is hidden. So much history is not.
Let me scroll down, because there's basically talking about the enforced contraception and sterilizations. There are still 13 countries that still permit, that it's not illegal to have forced sterilizations. That's Bulgaria, Croatia, Czechia, Cyprus, Estonia.
Really?
Yeah. Estonia, and this one is probably one of the most. Finland, Hungary, Latvia, Malta, Portugal, and Slovakia. Links to that, and it's actually something that actually I've got here too. The Ethiopian Jews, when they I think it started in 1977, but in the 1980s as well, there was a massive push to help them migrate to Israel, because of all the famines that were happening, but then they actually gave them forced contraception, and some of the children that they did have were also taken away from them as well. There are we will be talking about all the other. There is lots. This is not like an isolated thing. This is basically whenever white people go to someone else's land and steal it, to be perfectly blunt, this is something that always happens. I don't think we've ever gone anywhere where we then don't basically decide that the people who already live there are lesser than, and
it's
basically try and stop them from breeding and steal their children.
It's a paternalistic attitude as well, isn't it? Is that we're here now, you were here first, but now we will reduce you down to non-existence, which is, if you look historically, you've got the Aboriginals as well, exactly the same process of devaluation of themselves, really, and also the fact that they were already there, but all tough, we're here now, and it just not. No, I'm not going to cry yet. Yeah, give me a minute.
It is. So going back to specifically the Greenland issue. So obviously you talk, because you've probably got more on the Little Danes. I've just got that it happened.
Right, this one goes back to the Little Danes experiment. It was 22 Inuit children were forcibly removed from their families and sent to Denmark to be re-educated as Danish elite speaking children. So regardless of, they've got their own culture, their own physicalities, because they are Greenlanders, they were completely removed. It was like, we're going to plop you here. It would be like if you went into a local school of 30 children and you just looked at them and said, I'm going to take randomly 22 of you, you're coming with me, and then you drop them in a completely alien environment with a language that they didn't understand. Absolutely contact with parents obliterated, and family units, and it was an experiment that didn't go well. No.
And I suspect, obviously, if they're trying to stop that, they're going to want to speak their own language. As I suspect there was violence to stop them.
Well, there's not an awful lot on the way you actually controlled those children, but the way that you think the trauma. If it's no different to someone coming in and taking you in the middle of the night, is it? No. It's that fear factor. Is you've got massive cultural differences, even down to the diets that they would have been expected to eat. Indigenous food sources were very different to how they would have been expected. Remember, they weren't going to be just normal run-of-the-mill children. They were looking to make them top of the game because it was an experiment. It was very much an experiment. It was like, we're going to make their lives better.
1950s experiments, 1960s,
horror, absolutely horrific.
So many absolutely atrocious things done in the name of just trying to work out what the hell's going on with people. So we discuss these people, and particularly with black and brown people, because because they are seen as a lesser, and it's wrong, isn't it? Yeah, and therefore they're sort of expendable. A lot of this was really to try and get rid of the language as much as anything. It was to try and stop the free speaking. That's a common trait of all of the
which is why we lose languages. Globally we lose languages, and then you gradually bring them back, and then they're archaic. And language throughout decades and through millennia will change, and the meanings of words change. And in the UK we've got so much language that is borrowings from other languages, which everyone says, oh yeah, you know, it's the global language. Well, it's the global language because of what we did and where we went and plopped ourselves, and that we reduced people's language, which is why I wanted to get this point in. The fact again that one of the main reasons for this 1951 experiment was to say, all right, okay, you're young enough to be actually changed. That's why they chose. They didn't take family units. They didn't place them in to what if we were doing it in Britain, into an estate, in a house, an integration. There was none of that. It was, we're taking your children and now we're going to make them Danish, and that is really
they must conform.
Yeah, you will conform or else you will not be.
What's it? Resistance is futile. No, it's not. Do resist.
It's just so bad.
So, despite, you know, this is literally only really being talked about currently, but it's been so it's still been going up until this day, and basically, like I was saying, it is the issue. Like more Greenlandic children are taken into care, and it is due to the
it's the test,
culturally biased competency tests. And that's not the first, going back to, if you've seen us before, you know, I've talked about my doing ACS, psychology, sort of. But the AS was talking about different experiments in the 1950s and 60s and how ethically dubious they were. And one of them basically concluded that all Americans were morons. Because they were doing
an sweeping generalisation.
Exactly, exactly, because they were actually doing IQ tests, which are dubious because they are often very biased. It's testing a very specific sort of intelligence, but also it was again like the
that's a squiffy test anyway.
That is
exactly proper squiffy test.
It's testing a very specific sort of intelligence and not basically they were testing it on people in the army. I think this was actually either during or after World War One. The tests were done, but then somebody was looking at what happened. And basically it's because they were testing it on people in the army, and the army was made up of a lot of new immigrants and black people who didn't have this, but it was a white person's sort of test because it was based on culturally
white, which is the same process as what they've done in Denmark. It wasn't culturally appropriate.
No,
for the people they're testing it on, which squiffs the statistics. And that you can manipulate statistics anyway. We've spoke about this on here before.
Well, the other thing that made me think of, we thought my nan was, she was clearly having sort of dementia symptoms, and I took her to the doctors, and the doctor gave her all these tests, and she actually passed. It was like, what's today's date? And various things. So she passed that, but she was racking up massive phone bills because she was calling 118 because that was what was in her head, because it was constantly going on the telly. So she phoned them up to get to her bank, and then because she'd lost her card, even when it was actually still in her purse.
Yeah, but she was using the pathways that she created to get to what she needed to know.
Because
that's what your body does. That's what your brain does.
It's the long term. She'd heard that so long that when she basically her mind started to deteriorate, then, but the test is like, so often tests are meaningless because she passed when she clearly had issues, and they were like, no, she's fine. I'm like, she is not fine.
I've done that with the opticians though, Mel. We literally, all 3 of mine had to have their eyes tested, and because I've got a really good recall on a visual memory, I had my eye test next, and I did the recall of the, and then I went out and I thought, well, I really do need glasses, don't I? Because I knew I did, but because I think almost submissively I'd absorbed what was there, and because I'm a watcher and I'm a learner, it was like, right. And then because I'd done it 3 times in succession, he was like, no, actually your eyes are a bit better than last time. And I remember thinking, but they're not, they're really not. And then sort of going away, and then 6 months later I only ever use I need glasses for close work, for drawing and for literally reading if I'm reading for any length of time. And I'd fooled the test because it had got in. So what your nan was doing was exactly the same thing. And I think I did it because I anyway how I work. I use different pathways to get to where I need to be. I go right the way around the houses, but I think because it is so innate in me now, I think I just absorbed it. I was like, I need to know this. They're asking the kids this. I know that, and submissively I'd done it, and that's quite. Our brains are incredibly clever, and sometimes we're not aware of stuff that we're doing.
Yes,
and that's what. Yeah, it's unconscious, and that's probably what your nan was doing. Bless her.
Yeah. I remember because I've got keratoconus in this eye, and I went in and I was like, I can actually see, and I was like, hold on, is that N backwards? She was like, yes. I don't know why they did it like that. So basically one of the ends was actually, the diagonal was that way instead of that way.
It was the Timu one.
Yeah.
Of course it wasn't.
Before Timu existed, actually. That's because it's a lot,
I'm in the market special. We're digressing. But
we're digressing and
child migration is what I want to kind of touch on here, because the Greenland children were removed, and all intents and purposes are literally fostered initially and then adopted out to children who want to people who want children, not within the culture.
Danish people.
It's Danish people, but child migration and children being used and taken from their own cultures is not new. This is something that goes right the way back to the 1600s, really. And then you've also got the elements of where the poor law came in. So then you'd have children who were removed. You've got I'm gonna go into a deep dive on this, but you've got many people who were you've got Maria Rye. She was a pioneer in the movement of sending the first groups of children to Canada in the 1860s. And these are people who were, to all intents and purposes, it was a promise of, it was either labour, it was used for labour, it was resettlement. And they went to Canada in this instance. But then you've also got Barnardo's, Thomas Barnardo, which there was a massive statement was issued by the Barnardos back in the 2010s about their role in it and acknowledging it, and it was all about for the greater good and the Christianity
greater good.
And that's the element of it where it was these people are lesser and are lesser than us, let's help them. And I do think some of it is blindingly ignorance, really, that they've got the right to jump in and take someone and say, oh no, you're going to have a much better life somewhere else.
Well,
it's the child labour
image that I've seen is like when a brown person is attacking a white person, it's barbarism, but when a white person is attacking a brown person, it's sort of like civilization. We're civilizing the savages. It's basically the same thing, but it's looked at through a different lens because of skin colour. Which
I also think we need to look at how powerful the colonies were and how, particularly in the Victorian era, about how vast the empire was, and about how it was, let's start again. You know, you send in children of good white stock is one of the tag phrases. Now that means that that's uncomfortable, and this is why it's so upsetting. But the fact is that children were resettled, and that you've got the farming elements in Australia as well, where children were put in and used as farm hands. It's just, where does someone's life become of less value because of economics, and to keep them, of someone who is sitting there comfortably? The poor law, to all intents and purposes, was brought in to look after you. If you couldn't look after yourself, it was the first form of it was a socialist act, really. It was like, we're going to look after you. You know, you're at the end of your tether, you're going to die, you come into the workhouse, you're going to have a bed to die in. That's almost where it should have sat, and where a lot of people thought it did sit. But then you've got the uncomfortable elements of children who were of working ability, who were physically strong, who were good white stock, who then could go and be repatriated to other countries. And this is something in our history that isn't particularly spoke about. This is the bit that, if you actually look through your own eyes and without being furious, which I have a real problem in doing, I'm quite honest with that in the bias that I have, you can actually see that there are elements where people were thinking, this is better for them. They're gonna have a better life. This is better than what they're doing now. But the fact that there was still being people transported after the Second World War, that's the bit that got me. I was like, but didn't we learn? No. Didn't we learn through this?
Obviously not, because we're still some.
Yeah.
There's still places in the world are doing it right today. So
I know, but this is the element of well, I'm not even going to say United Kingdom, because it isn't, is it? But that's the element that got me. It's on to you before I start.
Well, I'm just looking at all the list that I've got of all the different places. So, like, Australia is called the Stolen Generations. It was from the 1890s to the 1970s. Or the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander children were forcibly taken by either the government or Christian missions. Placed in white foster homes or institutions, and the goal was to assimilate them into basically white Australian culture by erasing their language and culture, and basically it's disconnecting them from their families and therefore their culture. And then there's the Canadian residential schools, and the 60s Scoop residential schools. That was 1880s to the 1996. Obviously that's a little bit too close, isn't it? Yeah, still, yeah. And again, taken from families, based in church-run boarding schools. Speaking their own language was banned, and then so much abuse. With the goal of this one was kill the Indian in the child. Like, it's in their DNA. You can't. There's literally, just
not understanding though, isn't it? I do think it's not understanding, Mel. I'm going to say an awful. I think it's the hierarchy of, we sit here and you are lesser.
Yep.
And so because you are lesser, let's get rid of the elements in you that we don't find comfortable. And that it's no different to the girls in the laundries who were unmarried. Oh right, okay, so you're going to come here, you're going to wash all our clothes for us, you're going to do that to earn your keep, and then because you've done that, you're already a sinner because you're having a kid out of wedlock. So then don't worry though, because we'll probably save your soul, and we're definitely going to save your baby's soul, because we're going to give that baby to someone else who's going to bring it up in a much better way than you could have ever brought it up. And it's just, again, it's the we're better than you. Yeah,
you're just a piece of
you're just
shit.
Yeah,
and
your kids better off with someone else
because of our value system that is completely
skew with anyway.
Yeah. So yeah, a lot of the 1800s and 1900s in Nordic countries, so that's Norway, Sweden and Finland. If I mispronounce this, I'm sorry. The Sami children were placed in boarding schools by the state and the church, and basically, language suppression, erasure of their culture, again widespread. It's basically all. So, New Zealand, the Maori children, same things happen. And again, it's still going on. That's from the 1900s to present. The Latin America, indigenous children under settled during the conquest of the desert, the indigenous people were taken by settler families to civilise them. As again, that's we're civilised, but we're so not civilised. White people are so, like. Look, this is an evidence of how we are not civilized. This is not a civilized society.
It's our hierarchy, isn't it? It's the
to do these things to people. So again, in Brazil and the Amazon region, missionary run schools, remove indigenous children, and forcing assimilation into white culture, and even in Russia, and the indigenous people of Siberia were placed in state-run boarding schools, internats, and basically forced to learn Russian, and have a Soviet identity, and erasing their indigenous ways of life.
Breaking down their cultures, is everything in them that gives them their culture.
Yeah.
And that is, I want to talk about also, you've got the fact that the UK government did issue formal apologies to child migrants. I mean, this was literally in the 2010s. Australia did it in 2009. But the fact that you've got survivor stories, and you can go, I've linked in all the charities where if you know anyone who is looking for family members, because there will be people who will have lost uncles or aunts, and who were actually resettled in the 50s. There will be people who, every family will have some branch that will have been touched and not perhaps even realise it immediately because records were lost. But there are still now, there are charities that will help you find your own families, because remember, these children weren't babies when they were taken.
Well, that's one of the things I was watching recently about the Greenlanders, and the minister basically was saying, they were interviewing a couple that had their basically forcibly, they'd had their children taken away previously, and then they got pregnant and had another child, and that babe was literally, I don't think either of them even got to hold the baby. It was literally just whisked away because they decided they had an issue with alcohol, and the journalist was trying to talk to the minister, and he said, well, some cases are it's closed. I think they've been closed adoptions. So they're like, no, it's closed. Like, no, it is not.
It's really sad, isn't it?
Because you have just because you've made a mistake and taken someone's child does not mean that you have to sort it out. It's not closed. And it's not because they're like, I think they think it's going to traumatise the child to take them away. But surely you're just delaying the trauma when they find out what actually happened to them in the long run.
There are good and bad in everyone, and just for balance, I just want to say that there are people who absolutely should not have children in every culture, and there are people whose children are given and who are not allowed to bring up their own children for the right reasons.
Yes,
there are, and I want to just make that really clear, that we're not saying that everyone's a child.
Yeah, every parent should be able to have their child.
Because if I had my way, I think there should be a test in some ways for across the board. But literally, the point that we are very much focusing on is that these tests weren't culturally appropriate.
No.
And that's what gave them an unfair disadvantage before they'd even open their mouths.
Yeah.
And that's why the tests now are banned to be used on these Greenlanders, which is a bit of progress, but the fact that we're in 2025 and it took that long is horrific.
And some people will never get their children back, even though they probably shouldn't have had them taken away. It's just disgusting. So
that's bad, isn't it? It's just on every level. This has been really uncomfortable. This is scratching the surface of something that is massive, absolutely massive, and centuries old, really. Which is, okay.
I think it's important that where we have privilege, we need to look at. We need to sit in the discomfort. This is probably where we're moving on to the sensory snapshot thing again. It's learning to sit in that discomfort so we can acknowledge the truth of what has happened, because often what I see in real life and on social media is that people
sweep it.
They want to sweep it under the carpet because they feel so uncomfortable.
You've got to get past the comfortable elements of the history we live in, and when I say history, 30 seconds ago was history, 5 seconds ago was history. We can't make any change unless we understand how we got to where we were.
No.
And this is where if you're watching now and you're offended by anything we've said, you're not the right people for us, really, because we will touch on things that are uncomfortable, because we need to unpick it. I need personally to understand where we got to this, and how the biggest sorry in the world's not going to fix the damage that was done.
Sorry means nothing. It's actions.
It doesn't. It's a woolly word anyway. I would love to have learned about this within school, but I would have loved to have learned about lots of elements of history, and that the empire literally created, because there's so much. There's so much.
It was just bringing me back round to the Billy Connolly did Who Do You Think You Are?
Yeah.
And they were looking at one of his great grandparents, I think, who was in India, and there was an uprising, and basically wherever his grandfather's regiment or whatever was based, of Hindu and Muslim, I suppose at the time Indians, because I don't think obviously at that time it was in the 1800s, the Pakistan didn't exist at that time, and the British Army managed to crush the uprising, and the people who they hadn't already killed, they basically the Hindus they made to eat beef, and the Muslims they made to eat pork, and then they hung them. So the British, I'm going to say the British Empire, but that sort of for me that's sort of pushing it away from me. It's pushing. It's the empire. It's not white. It's not. Yeah, it's pushing it away from getting it away from me and pushing that uncomfortableness away from me. The British have done some absolutely disgusting,
and many cultures do some absolutely disgusting things that we don't find acceptable. Many cultures do, but the resounding fact is that there's so much. There's so much, and as particularly the actual downtreading of minimal Indigenous people is, and I said minimal there for a reason, because if you've got an awful lot of people who are actually coming in and causing a resettlement, creating another thing, you are minimalised. You are your whole natural habitat is gone because it's been changed, and then you become the lesser, and that's what historically has happened.
Well, the
marginalising
empire had the power
to do that.
To do, like you said, lots of cultures have
been lost
or done terrible things, but ultimately the empire created it that we were able, the the British Empire, and just white people were able to do it on just a massive, almost industrial scale, basically.
And that's almost it, and industry had a massive part in it as well. And that's, you've also got the child labour from the Industrial Revolution.
It's still going on.
Yeah, of course it is.
Congo.
Many
Your
of
phone.
places.
By refurbished, your phone has parts from Congo, coltan and cobalt, and they use children, especially Apple, to mine these things, and basically will maim them if they don't do enough. It's awful.
But there is plenty of actual. There's plenty of the components that we need already in circulation. It's just redistributing them and using them properly. And the fact is that because it costs to, it's cheaper to use the labour, which is that really my phone's ancient as well and old and is a refurbished gift gaff one. That's what that is. But when you actually understand the science of everything we use and it's how it's become in and created in existence, you've really got to have a little shake of yourself and think, Christ, do you know what? Again, we're at the top of the tree.
Yeah, all my tech, even like my new, got a new
so
tower
bad.
for work, and that was a refurbished one because,
ethically, shocking, really is shocking.
This the need that we have
It's faraway
here is
society.
to have a new. It's got this
this
has one new thing on it that my old phone didn't, so I must have a new one.
We're all just buying into it, aren't we? We're all just like, I need the best of the best of the best of the best. And
It's the
cultural status again, isn't it?
what to say? Apparently it was wrong, but the religion is like overconsumption. This is the new religion that is now sort of making it bearable to live in the system that we currently live in, basically. So
Is it bearable?
No.
No.
Well, I think we've got
think
to the point there. It's now not bearable, no matter what.
I think you're seeing. I had a conversation. I know we're digressing again. I had a conversation with a really good friend, and she's very much of similar thought processes as I am. And her words were, "There's no grey anymore. You're either far right, far left. There's no grey in the middle where people can have elements of this thought process or that thought process. It's just those people in the grey are just getting pushed further and further into one extreme or the other, which is so frightening."
Yeah, but the far left are, we want people to be able to to eat and have a house. And
Yeah, exactly.
there's
No. That's not the point I'm making.
Yeah.
I'm saying that there isn't. It's too extreme on either side because it's so desperate. And there isn't, is there? There isn't this element where anymore the grey area is there where you're just kind of like, well, I agree with that, but I don't agree with that.
Is the left really gone far left, or is it just that the right have gone so far right it makes the people who are actually just trying to like be human look like they're far? I think that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I think you're right in that element as well, because I think it's because everything is so jumped on. So if you, I'm forever getting called out for being a lefty. Always. It's like, oh Christ, this goes again. But that's not gonna. That's in me, and you could probably say I am extreme in my thought processes now, as you've just said. But where you did have people who were in the middle and just meandered, now I don't think they do. I think because they appear to be extreme. I think, but the far right is scary as fuck, and that is, and there, and I
It's
think
now far right.
But do you not think it's the meandering middle who are more likely to get pushed into the far right? Like we said 2 weeks ago when I said it's just because it's so hopeless, because they don't, it doesn't fit where they should fit anymore. So
I think they're being manipulated.
it's the manipulation of pitting people against themselves and each other.
I think I've actually got a quote to put up about it, but which is going up next week. It's basically, we are being manipulated. The poor are being manipulated to defend the rich when they're the ones that are creating the poverty, and it's making other people scapegoats. So we don't actually look at what is really happening, and then telling people who actually just want decency and humanity to exist in the
And a
world,
decent
calling them
level of
far,
life.
calling
Yeah.
us far right,
Yeah, I know.
far left. Sorry,
Far left. Yeah.
and that we're it's like
Don't call us far
far
right.
right.
Don't do
God
that.
no, Freudian slip.
Do you know what would
That's who we are.
happen? Do you know what would happen though? I'd combust.
Yeah.
Unhappily, I'd say thank you for that spontaneous human combustion. I deserved it.
I think I don't think I am far left. I'm not. Like
yeah, but I think we would be represented as that if
Yes.
we were to believe the propaganda.
Yes.
That's the point I'm making.
Yeah.
You've got no meandering middle, which at times I probably have been meandering middle, and I've thought, well, I don't agree with this, I don't agree with that, but I do agree with that. But so long as everyone's got a decent quality of life, which is where I do sit,
yeah.
and everyone can live a decent quality of life fairly,
Mm-hmm.
then I don't want extreme people to have extreme wealth.
No.
I don't. I probably am a communist. That's it. Apart from the elements of communism that I really hate, so I'm not that.
Mm.
But it is. But that is where the meandering literally can get pushed to areas that they would never have thought of because of propaganda.
Mm. Too much propaganda. So
And
that went, we went off. We've been on several meanderings.
This is what we are, though.
So bringing it back down to checking in with our bodies. That's probably quite a lot of sensation created during all that discussion. So quick recap about what a sensory snapshot is. So it's the highest moment that you feel in sensation you feel in your body at any moment, and you describe it using where is the location of it, the temperature, the movement, and the texture. So let me check in with my body. So there was a moment where I felt a warm bubble pushing out on my breastbone.
Yeah, I've got. Actually, it's in my lower hip. I've got. I've done it again.
I do it every morning, so don't worry.
Yeah, it's in my lower hip, and it's actually a really prickly sensation, but it's hot. It's hot in my lower right hip. So I don't know if it's where I've got a chill.
Hot, prickly right hip. Excellent.
Yeah, I've got an angry hip. My hip is angry today.
It's probably the only bit about us that's hot right now.
Yeah, because it's freezing. Thanks to Mr. Camera.
Still not as cold as last week, but I
know
have
what
got
we
a
can
slightly
do.
runny nose. That's why I keep doing this.
Oh god, it was so uncomfortable, wasn't it? It was just like, it felt like... I don't know if you've ever had that experience of sitting on a bus where, like as a child, I can remember I used to do it with my nan a lot, and then there'd always be like an old man whose nose was dripping.
Do drip, yeah.
And you'd just be watching him and you're thinking, is it going to go? Is it going to go?
Count him. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us, and give us a follow. And I'm going to click on here to see if I can see if anybody else said anything.
We are literally, these are our opinions. These are...
Mr. Mel.
What did he say? Hello.
He said, the Overton window has shifted massively to the right. So that's why we seem like we're extreme, basically. Extreme left.
He's
because,
right, yeah.
It's moved so far to the right.
Well done, Ian. I agree with you there, and it's frightening me.
Yeah. So, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Like, subscribe, and...
Tinkle that bell. Give it a little bell tinkle. All these opinions are our own.
Yep.
We do fact check, but it's easy to misspeak. I'm going to be honest with that.
Yeah.
But that is why we do upload the research documents. You can go and have a look yourself. There's nothing.
Do your own research, please.
I love that bit.
Yeah.
I love research.
Yes.
But thank you very much.
Thank you.
And goodbye. Goodbye. I need